Back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, August 30th, the last Friday of August. The summer's ending, and it's time for what just happened. We look back at the insanity of the week, and what really happened is two of the three panelists have COVID. So let's start with the person who doesn't. Alex Berg, creative director and journalist, telling stories from in front and behind the cameras, written for NBC News, The Daily Beast, and guest hosted for me on Tuesday when I did jury duty, which wasn't on the topics, but still I did that. Hey, Alex, thank you for
Hey,
hosting, and nice to see you.
truly an honor.
Now, in a question of who is sicker in the new game show on SiriusXM, who's got it COVID worse? Let's find our contestant, Tara Dublin, writer and political commentator, blocked by Donald Trump on Twitter, author of the book The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, who's at DNC and got COVID. Tara, how you doing? What are your symptoms?
As of today, I sound like this,
All right.
but still a little woozy.
Mm-hmm.
I never really had a high fever, but I've been sleeping so much. This is my first time with COVID, so I'm like my own scientific experiment, and every day there's a new symptom to add, and it's just so exciting. But it's a badge of honor. DNC COVID is extra patriotic COVID. So we have the freedom of choice to decide how sick we want to be.
That's very
That's how
good.
DNC COVID works.
Also, who went to DNC and got COVID is Jason Selvig, coming to us from an urgent care. One half of the very funny political comedy duo, The Good Liars, and they have a podcast, Tell the Truth, which Gavin Newsom was struggling to promote for you guys, although I think it was all comedic. Jason, nice to see you. And how are you feeling? Because you truly do have COVID. I know that from the DNC.
I feel fine. I don't want to brag, but this is my fourth or fifth time getting COVID. So this is not something new for me. I lost my sense of taste, which is the worst to lose. I lost it for like 24 hours. But other than that, I feel fine. And I would probably be on the road filming right now if it wasn't for the little moral obligation I feel to society to not keep spreading this virus.
Thank you for being thoughtful so you could be on the show. And you only lost your taste for a day. And all I can think is MAGA, how long have they lost their taste? It's been how many years? So last night, finally the corporate media got their wish. They got to ask questions to Vice President Harris and Tim Walz. We can all sleep a little better. And by the way, the reviews are in because I literally got an email before we began taping from the Harris campaign. It said, right on the mark. Big hit, substantive, serious. And then they have like all the review. I'm not even kidding. They go, the reviews are in. It's like Jamie Harrison, DNC chair, saying it was the greatest interview ever. And Democratic members of Congress. And look, I'm on Team Harris. I just thought it was very funny. I'm like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you could have.
Is that where you get your news from, campaign emails? Because
yes.
I get Trump campaign emails, and it paints a different picture.
Oh,
Harris ones.
Literally, I can read from the headline right here. It says the serious, substantive, and hit all the marks and on the airwaves. And they quote people like David Axelrod and Jamal Simmons and Karen Finney. And then they go social media people. They got Keith Boykin, all Democrats, Sherry Jacobus, Olivia Troy, who's a Republican, but at the convention, Bakari Sellers, all giving glowing reviews. So it's done. We don't even need an election. Why even vote, right? So, Alex, let's start with you because you guest hosted and you don't have COVID. From what you saw of the debate, the discussion, it was like just a nice discussion, to be honest. It wasn't a heavy-handed interview. It was not very pressing, not very bad. It was sort of like in the middle. I mean, Dana Bash just asked the questions. That was it.
Yeah, I feel like there was so much buildup to this interview. And really that's as a result, I feel like, of the right-wing media kind of trying to pressure Kamala to do an interview like this. And then I feel like basically some of the talking points that she's already hit. I do feel like she's gotten better at handling interviews over the years and questions and kind of redirecting Dana Bash throughout the interview and kind of having a little bit more control of the narrative and not playing into some of the talking points that the Trump campaign has been going really hard on. And, we can get more into some of those. So I thought it went well. And that kind of like, no matter what your political perspective is, you glean what you want from these interviews. So very unsurprising that Democrats are going to give it amazing reviews. And then I imagine that right-wing media is going to pick and choose the clips that they want and, use them to go after her as much as they possibly can. But I thought for the most part, I felt like she was in control of the interview and that the way that she handled some of Bash's questions, especially the one about Trump's remarks about her blackness, I thought that she kept it right moving rather than playing into his talking points.
Yeah, and I'll just read that little part where Dana Bash said, Trump suggested that you happen to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity. And Harris goes, yeah. And Bash goes, any? And Harris goes, same old tired playbook. Next question, please. And then Bash goes, that's it. And Harris goes, that's it. And to that won the day. To me, I'm like, we're done. Just shut it off. And Tim Walz was like Vice President Harris's assistant. Like these people on the right are like, oh, he's there as a crutch. Nope. He was there quiet half the time. So, Tara, what is your reaction from what you saw in between the COVID hallucinations? What was going on?
Dana Bash is a terrible interviewer. I think, well, first of all, the fact that Kamala Harris was doing this interview, there was a reason content creators were given the access they were given at the DNC, and that's because they asked real questions to get real answers that real voters are actually interested in. And CNN is spending a lot of time still catering to Donald Trump. And I didn't need to hear his name during that interview. We know what he is. We know what he's doing. And this was an opportunity for people who maybe don't know enough about Kamala Harris and what she stands for. And she shouldn't be forced to have to push back on every stupid thing Donald Trump says. That's not what an interview should be. An interview should be, who are you? What are your policies? What are you bringing to the people? And what are the conversations that you're having with voters? And the conversations that they're having with voters, we just saw on the Georgia bus tour. Voters care about their day-to-day lives. And the things that the Biden-Harris administration have delivered to them are the things that the Harris-Walz administration will continue to deliver. And those are the things that I want to hear about as a voter. Those are the things as someone who is at the DNC. Those are the messages that we're supposed to be carrying forward now. We're supposed to be moving forward. And watching her being bullied by the MSM and MAGA. Now she sat down for her corporate interview. Now they want a press conference so that more people can yell at her and bully her. It's unconscionable the way they treat her. And so from this point forward, I would like to see the Harris-Walz campaign be in more control of their narrative. They can decide who they speak with, what they sit down for, and who they talk to. Because if it's going to continue to be this biased bullshit, they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't be required to. And I think we really need to see a shift in the way the media is covering this campaign, because they cannot Trumpify Kamala Harris, and they need to stop trying.
So, Jason, I mean, you've interviewed a lot of people. Have you done something differently, or what was your take on it?
Look, I thought she handled herself well, especially that question. I don't want to toot our own horn here, but I'm going to. Please. In January 2016, we were at a Trump rally and we yelled, "This is boring. Tell some jokes. This is boring. This is boring." And it feels like everybody has caught up to that now, like, and realized that Donald Trump is boring. And I thought Harris handled that perfectly. Donald Trump, his whole plan is he's going to say something shocking. He's going to take up the news cycle and take up all the oxygen in the room. And she's saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play into him saying something shocking and then creating this back and forth out of something terrible that he created. Because Donald Trump, he's basically just a shock jock. He's a one-trick pony. He says shocking things that his base loves, gets the media to talk about it, and that's what he thrives on. He just sucks the oxygen out of the room. And the other part about this is that I think we should be talking about is, and she said it there, he's not good at this anymore. He's bad. He has gotten boring. He can't even come up with a good nickname anymore. He settled on Comrade Kamala, and he was workshopping other ones like Lying Kamala, which was one that he gave to Ted Cruz. He's recycling his old ones. He called him Lying Ted. He also, planted a story in the National Enquirer that his dad had something to do with the JFK assassination, and called his wife ugly in a retweet. I just wanted to bring those up just because I want to prove what a spineless coward Ted Cruz is for a second.
Man,
but Donald Trump,
this year.
You do real. We can talk about that. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe.
I know, but at least it's very competitive with Colin Allred. It's a very competitive race, so he's freaking out, Ted.
Yeah. But I think they did what I've done the interview differently. Probably there'd be some funnier questions in there. But she I thought she handled it great. And like, I kind of disagree. Like, I think she should be out there doing press conferences at certain points, talking to people. But if the media is going to be, just catering to Donald Trump and letting him control the narrative, then maybe you're absolutely right. She shouldn't be out there.
She should come on our shows. She come on.
I totally agree.
Places.
I would love to interview her.
Right. She's going to reach the people. If she came on SiriusXM Progress, let's say, or the Good Liars podcast, or anything else we're doing, at least you're reaching the people that are on your side and that you have to animate to come out and vote, and they'll tell their friends and maybe they'll get excited. And there's people who've got huge followings on the left. There's podcasts and Brian Tyler Cohen and all these other people. Like, you can go on everything. And it's not like, if you keep on my show, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, time for a back rub. I would ask questions, and there's certain areas I would really press and follow up because it's very personal for me. Certain areas, and other areas would be like, okay, that's your answer. Let's move on to the next question. I mean, I don't think it would be a joke. By the way, next week I'm interviewing Dana Bash about her book. Right
Okay.
So if you have any
this
questions
is
about me to ask
good.
Dana Bash, I'm like, Dana, here are the questions I would have asked Vice President Harris. Can we go through these with you? And it's very interesting, like what they're going through, like Dana Bash and corporate media. For years, the right would attack corporate media and the left would defend it. Now the left is joined in this fight, attacking them for what they're doing, and they're losing any supporters out there. So it's a very unique thing, because Dana Bash has to go into this interview, I assume, thinking like, here are the things I want to ask, and here are the things if I don't ask, they're all going to attack me. And if I press too hard, I'm going to get attacked from the left and the right. So I think, and it's not about feeling sorry, it's a changing landscape that they have to navigate now. So, I mean, Alex, you've worked in the media for a long time. I think it's vastly different on the left. We never used to attack the media. We would defend the media when Trump's like, they're the enemy of the media. Like, no, they're an important fourth estate and all that. We're like, corporate media sucks now. We're like, they're awful. What is wrong with them? Like, we're joining with the right.
Well, I think this interview is a rich text to talk about this, because I mean, I even know from my own experience working at some media outlets that when I was on air, there was a great deal of pressure to generate headlines. So you're asking stuff that really totally plays in to the Trump campaign simply to generate clicks. And that's a really bad strategy when you're trying to get people good information to help them make decisions about an election. It's really not even about getting people good information. It's just literally about generating more headlines elsewhere. And I think that plays into some really clickbait type of content. We definitely saw that in this interview. And also to your point about if Harris were to come on some of these more left-leaning podcasts and interviewers, I think that I have a real appetite to actually hear about how some of these policies would work. For example, I was thinking about her proposal to give first-time homebuyers $25,000. I'm really curious about, okay, how does that actually work, especially in the wake of seeing.
It's a bag of cash.
I mean, okay, great. Hands it over. Yeah. Just especially in the wake of seeing, the way that like right-leaning judges have basically shut down all of Biden's policies, like most recently with the student debt policy. So how do you get a policy like that across the finish line? I would want to ask her about Israel's genocide in Gaza. I want to actually hear a more substantive conversation from her about that. And I feel like the CNN interview was such an example of being so clickbait and headline driven, and then really losing this amazing opportunity to have a substantive conversation about how these policies are actually going to work.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I read the transcript, I watched some of it, but I read it, and it's interesting to read it and see. I'm like, well, why didn't you follow up there? Like, you're reading these things and you get a sense they have a limited time, and she does. It's not open-ended, and there's certain boxes you got to check, and hoping one of them will yield exactly what you're saying, a headline. And she wanted Trump. Dana Bash clearly wanted Vice President Harris to engage on Trump's stuff and go, he's a racist. This is what he is. And the headline out of the thing is, Harris calls Trump a racist. And they would have loved that. They didn't get that. Instead, they got her being like, nope. I think that on some level, if we look back, that's where she won this election in a way, because that's her mindset going in. I'm not going to play games with this idiot. I'm talking about policy. That's such a winning message. People are so tired of Trump. So Tara, what do you think about this? The pressure for them to get headlines, to get clicks, and how much it affects journalism and our contempt for corporate journalism now. I've never had more contempt in my life. I used to be the journalists themselves are good. They get pressure from the executives to do certain things. That's what's going on. It's not them. Dana Bash is fine. She's a good journalist. She gets pressure from the new owners at CNN who have a whole different mindset.
Yeah, the same network that didn't do any fact checking in the Trump Biden debate. So to your point, there was a time we didn't talk like this about the media because Peter Jennings or Sam Donaldson or Diane Sawyer was on our TV every night saying, here's what happened. You get to decide what you think about it. We're not going to tell you what to think about it. And the 24-hour news cycle threw that out the window because they had to fill airtime, and we got pundits. And that's how we got to this kind of news cycle where this is what happened, but we're going to tell you what to think about it before you have a chance to make up your own mind, which is not what the media is supposed to do. The media is supposed to present the story. Here are the facts of what happened. And to me, and we've talked about this before, the truth is what matters the most. And if you're not able to get to the truth, you're not doing your job and you're doing your audience a disservice. So good, bad, or indifferent, Democrat, Republican, independent, the facts are what matter the most. And they're not focused on that. They're focused on getting the clickbait headline. And that's how we get here where it's, oh, Trump's racist, and this is this. I miss having intelligent political discourse where you discussed policy and track record, and it was because of your service that got you to the job that you got, and it wasn't cult of personality and creating a cult to get you where you are, and using fear and scaring people into voting for you. Like that people don't feel good about that. And so I would say that you need to pick and choose where you get your stuff from. People that you trust, people like myself, people like you, people who continue to seek the truth, regardless of who's speaking. And when the vice president is speaking, I would like to give her the opportunity to talk about things that people care about instead of the smoke and mirrors that the Trump campaign creates, because they have no substance and they have nothing to fight back with.
Well, what they have, and I've talked to Jason about this before, and I'm chatting with Jason Selvig, one of the two people in the Good Liars, Tara Dublin and Alex Berg. Jason, I always repeat what you've told me on air and to others. I give you no credit, of course, but I talk about
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm like, this is an idea I've had.
This is my idea.
I think it was when we were doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner thing, and I either said it on air or you said it in the commercial break, and that how you talk to Trump supporters, they're not even watching Fox News anymore. They're literally reading what he writes on Truth Social. That's it. He's cut out the middle person, making it so hard to reach these people. And that's such a grave concern. So when Trump posts vile stuff on social media, even things, some are smears, but some are just not true at all. Jason, share, like, when you talk to people, and you do it a very nice way. You talk to them, you don't make them feel dumb. You just want to hear what they have to say. They repeat Trump stuff, and they sincerely, deeply believe it's true. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go, and I've said this before, like going out and you talk to these people, and they're not bad people for the most part. You get along with some of them, and you can, see your own family, your aunts, your uncles, grandparents, whatever in them. Maybe I'm just projecting right now, but but they do get their news now from Donald Trump. And if you look back, just talking about the corporate media, like if you look back at how we got into this mess in the first place, 2016 was just Trump rallies. Like the cable news, not just Fox News, were just playing Trump rallies because the line between entertainment and politics was just, it was shattered. We didn't know what it was. They were reporting on it. I'm using air quotes right now, because it was getting ratings. And it's just like you were saying about the chasing the headlines there. So we got into this cycle where we believed that this was news now. And we, meaning the United States of America, myself included, like, this is news because this guy's out there. He's saying this, he's saying these terrible things. We're reporting on it, and we're legitimizing this person as a presidential candidate at the time. I'm not saying he didn't resonate with people and he wasn't polling well, but the people, the cable news was chasing the ratings there. So I don't know how you reach these people who only get their news from Donald Trump. But fortunately, if you look at the map, I think you win an election if you don't reach these people. But for the country moving forward, we're not in a good place, because Donald Trump is certainly not going away. Even if he loses in a landslide, which I don't think is going to happen. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think right now, because he always overperforms in polls. But even if he wins in a landslide, I think he's going to still say he won and still be trying to put his finger on the scale no matter what happens. And that could lead to violence. You never know.
It could. And Jason, by the way, have you been at rallies? I know you had COVID now, but in recent weeks, have you been to the Trump rallies?
Yeah. We were in Bozeman, Montana, which was beautiful. That was one of the reasons we went. We're like, oh, this is not in the middle of Pennsylvania or in the middle of North Carolina. Let's go to Montana. But yeah, we recently went there, and the talking points have changed a little bit since. It used to just be Joe Biden. Everyone was like, Joe Biden this, Joe Biden that. He's old. And then I'm interviewing. I'm like, yeah, I mean, he is old. Yeah, you're right on that. You're right about that a little bit. But now it has changed to like the other things that Donald Trump will post on Truth Social and say at his rallies. She's a DEI hire. This is undemocratic. What's happening right now? That she has that it's a coup. I know, that's great. It's just like, did anyone storm a building during this nomination process? Was like anyone killed? Okay, all right. It was a coup, though. It was a coup. So the things have changed, but you can definitely tell that people don't really know how to handle. It's the same way as Donald Trump. They don't know how to handle this new candidate, where you can't just like look at them and say like one person is younger and is like saying full sentences right now, because she's definitely like, it's a perplexing thing for Trump and the Trump supporters to like how to combat her.
They're like, who are we supposed to hate? Donald,
Yeah.
tell us. How do we
Yeah.
hate her? Tell us, it's her gender,
Yeah.
it's her race, it's her multiracial stuff. But I want to touch on something that's really positive here, Alex, because, I talked to Jason months ago when Biden was still the candidate, and Jason was warning me about, you go to these rallies and it's a huge turnout, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, and that Biden probably could not draw that consistently, maybe one big event. Well, Vice President Harris is drawing this organically. I mean, she was just in Savannah yesterday in a and that's a blue area of a very red, big region, but still 10,000, 12,000 people. And Gallup, brand new poll came out in March, to the point Jason made to me is absolutely true. Only 55% of Democrats said they were more enthusiastic than usual about voting. That was March. Now, 80% of Democrats more than usual. And Republicans, only 64% of them in this brand new poll say they are more enthusiastic than ever. So maybe the Trump show is getting boring a little bit. But Alex, to me, this is more important than the state polls, because we know it's going to be close. And this huge enthusiasm gap could very well equal how many people turn out, because they're enthusiastic, they come out on our side. To me, this is the key poll that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really meaningful to your point about Savannah. I was watching some of the footage from outside of the venue. You see these like extremely long lines, and there hadn't been a Democrat there in since the 90s or something. I think it's really meaningful when Democrats make their presence known in these places where maybe, they haven't been as attentive to in recent campaigns. I think it's really important when you hear about people canvassing for Harris, and especially in swing districts, but also in red places. I think it's when you hear about folks from her campaign who are going door to door and having conversations about policy. I feel like that's one way to cut out the corporate media. And it actually means something to voters when they get to hear from you directly. It means that you care enough to have a conversation with them. So I think that is very heartening to see. I feel like, and I've said this before, that it's like almost this switch was flipped in the past couple of months since the switch happened between Harris and Biden, where, I mean, even I feel like among people I normally interview for stories, I cover a lot of LGBTQ issues. I'm talking to people who are on the left or like far left and who are very critical of Democrats. And even they went from being like, I don't know how I'm going to stomach voting for Biden, to now feeling this enthusiasm for Harris and feeling like they can pressure her more towards the left and policies that they care about. And I mean, it is just such a big, big difference. So I'm not surprised that we're starting to see that now in this kind of polling data.
It really is interesting. And Tara, when you were at the DNC and you were there, you're a Democrat. Jason's a journalist, but you're a Democrat. what was the enthusiasm watching on television was awe-inspiring. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And everyone had COVID too. So, I mean, add that. You had COVID
until we came
and you're
home.
screaming. And so it's just super. It's like COVID. That was a COVID convention. COVID's actually at 90% enthusiasm right now. They're like, this was the greatest thing ever. We're back. So, but what was it like there? And what's it been like since in terms of talking to Democrats?
Amazing. I will tell you, it was amazing. It was energy. It was joy. It was like a great big blended family getting together for the world's greatest cookout with not a reason in sight. Everybody was delighted. The best night that I had was Wednesday because I got to be on the floor.
Wow.
And the energy on the floor was incredible. Everybody was we were just partying in the best way, and the noise level in there every single night, it was truly rock concert level enthusiasm. And on Thursday night there were so many people there that not everybody even had a seat. Fire marshal had to close down the venue with thousands of people outside who still wanted to get in. And even though I spent my entire evening sitting on the floor of like the concrete floor, I would not have wanted to be anywhere else than Chicago, the United Center Thursday night, listening to Kamala Harris, and the love in that room. Don't tell me that people don't like her. Don't tell me that people aren't enthusiastic. What you heard on television was loud, but you should have been in the space, because if we could harness the energy that we created, we could power the world. It was incredible. I've been to some amazing concerts in my life, but the enthusiasm from those 4 nights, unparalleled in my experience.
That's great. And I'm glad you shared. So let's take a break, my friends. Come back. There's a lot more to cover. Some of the Trump stuff, also just certain things I just found really interesting. So we'll take a break. We're going to come back. I hope you guys find it interesting as well. Be right back with more of the show after this. Hang on. I just lost my the wind. There it is. Hang on. Because when I breathe, you can hear it. And here we go. And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We are continuing live here on Friday, August 30th, continue our conversation with Alex Berg, Tara Dublin, and Jason Selvig. So, I hate to bring this up, but I still think it's important that people don't know that Donald Trump is as vile as ever. I don't want people to think, oh, he's older and he's mellowed. He's a scumbag. He's a vile, despicable piece of garbage. And when he shared on social media to his millions of followers this week, the comment about it's a picture of Hillary Clinton and Vice President Harris, and says the text was funny how blowjobs impacted both their careers differently. And Trump, a few weeks ago, when he wasn't making any sense about a helicopter with Willie Brown, was trying to get at the same point, but he couldn't articulate because his brain has dementia, some kind of dementia, something confused and muddled. I'm not a doctor. I had one on who said it's a form of dementia, but in any event, it's his idea to the right, and Trump really playing on it. If you're a woman, if you're successful, it's because you slept your way to the top. If you're a person of color, it's because of DEI. That's the only way you got there. Only white men are the ones that earn their success in this world. And the GOP base truly is this marriage of misogyny and white supremacy going on. So he knows his base. Like, I don't want people to go like, oh, he's being funny, or he doesn't know what he's doing. I don't even, there's so many weird answers. I get excuses from the corporate media. He knows what excites his base. So, I mean, Alex, when you saw this, yeah, it's despicable. I'm just hoping that suburban women who are on the fence, who are kind of right-leaning and like, well, maybe he's changed. They hear this and they go, this guy is just awful.
No, it's always the sexism and the racism every single time, right? And I think, just in the context of this larger conversation we've been having about corporate media, it's almost like you've seen just the further normalization of even more vitriolic, racist, and sexist speech with him. And I think with his followers, initially, I was on the campaign trail in 2016, going to a lot of his rallies and talking to them. And I think that at the time, people didn't want to say outright that they were voting for him because he was white and because of his white supremacist rhetoric. And I feel like now, as it becomes somehow more and more plain spoken, even though it is already out there and you would think vile enough, somehow it always gets worse, that I feel like actually now his base is just so ready to overtly co-sign on the racism and the sexism. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just an escalation that will continue. And I think also thinking about it in context of the media, it's like the Overton window has changed, right? The things that become kind of to your point about, we need to kind of constantly be alarmed about this so that the speech doesn't become more and more normalized. And right. I think that when he says this stuff, he's absolutely affirming his base's worldview and telling them it's okay to be racist and sexist, and we're going to keep on going with it.
Well, Jason, you go to these events and you speak to the ones you speak to are nice. So I'm not defending any of them. I'm sure they love the white supremacy. They love the sexism that makes their lives feel better. Like their lives might not have worked out, and doing this makes them feel a little bit better. But I imagine you met some others who might not feel, at least from the outside, not seem to be this type of person. Is there anything you could share? I mean, you listen to the rally. You've been at so many rallies this year. Is there sexism and racism there that's not getting covered, or is it really the typical 2 hours of bullshit that he spews? I mean, what's going on there?
Well, if you can look at the shirts that people wear there, and one of the more popular shirts at the rally, I'm going to censor this, by the way, but one of the most popular shirts you'll see at a rally it says "Vote No for Joe and the blank." The other one before, and now it is.
What's the blank? What do you? I mean,
it starts with an H. Starts with an H, and it rhymes with Joe. Starts with an H.
Oh wow!
Rhymes with Joe.
So
and then the other one is Joe
what pieces of
and
garbage.
the H gotta go. And these people buy these shirts, they wear them, they like are like want to show them off to the camera. You'll see families buy them for their teenage sons, and the kids will be wearing them at these rallies. And you'll see whole families going in wearing them together. So is his base going to be upset at this? No. Like, they're selling shirts and making signs that say that. Like, it is you'll see those are bumper sticker. That's like a bumper sticker that's really popular now. And I've been like, what's going to be the terrible new one that comes out now that she is the presidential candidate? So it's really easy to get upset at the sexism, and but I think it just shows what Donald Trump is, like who he is. This seems old. It seems like it's like from the 1950s or something. This style
2016.
here. Well, yeah, I know. Unfortunately, but
the sexism part was 2016, right? And the racism was more subtle with Obama, but it actually was more subtle.
I don't know if that was subtle. I mean, saying he wasn't born in the country, like,
right? No,
I mean,
but that was plausible deniability, so people at the country club can still go like, he's not saying he's racist. He's just asking questions, right? This stuff is indefensible. Like,
but
this stuff.
I mean, I totally agree, but it just shows that he's just an entitled, rich, dirty old man, and he's losing it a little bit. Just like doing like why would you be retweeting this stuff? Why would you be doing this if you're really trying to like reach these suburban women right now? And by the way, he did post a truth, I think it was earlier this week or last week, that said he would be the best president in history for women's reproductive rights.
Yes, he did.
Which is just
Indeed, he did.
It's just unbelievable, because at these rallies that we talk to people and we ask them, are you pro-life or pro-choice? About 25-30% say they're pro-choice, and that they believe in a woman's right to choose. And of course, the follow-up is, Donald Trump appointed the Supreme Court justices. They either say, I did not know that, I did not know that's why Roe v. Wade was overturned, or somebody, people are hitting their heads right now. Sorry, Alex.
Literally.
Or they will say it's gone back to the states, and that's a good thing. And of course, saying it's back to the states is a good thing is just like the talking point that he's saying, because he knows it's not a winning issue for him. And it going back to the states, meaning that women who are victims to all sorts of crimes can't get abortion care in some states, or have to be medevaced out of states to get the care that they need. But he's just trying to like change the narrative on things. And of course, the sexism, it's gonna fly with flying colors with his base, because look at the shirts at these rallies.
And I'm glad that you shared the shirts that Jason goes to these events with the good liars and sees it. Tara, yesterday Trump at his rally said, sort of was a rally, it was a speaking event, but he told them on abortion that, quote, in 6 states you're allowed to kill the baby after the baby is born. And I just want to point out, as a lawyer, that's not correct. That's called murder.
Not
I don't know if he's killing. We're killing. You can kill 12-year-olds in New York City. But then here's another little thing that went below the radar for the media. And then he goes, like, in Minnesota, that's where Tampon Tim comes from. And the crowd laughs. Tampon Tim, that's so clever. His name starts with a T. It has nothing to do with tampons in the men's bathroom. That was not true at all. It didn't matter. They had universal gender bathrooms where they had them in there. It didn't matter. It's just to keep saying it. And this outrageous bullshit. But to Jason's point, by the way, they're going to repeat that, in 6 blue states, they can murder babies after they're born.
Nobody's murdering babies. Nobody who wants a baby gives birth to a baby and then says, you know what? I've changed my mind. Let's murder the baby now. Maybe we could have it for breakfast. We don't do that. That is not it. And the only thing that they might sort of be talking about is the horrific experience of infant palliative care, which is when a baby is not viable enough to live outside the womb, and they wrap the baby and put the baby in the mother's arms, and the mother can hold the baby while it dies because it's not going to thrive. And so they don't know how women's bodies work, yet they want to try to control them. And people are dumb and they don't understand how things work. They just say dumber things to try to make them real, because they don't want people to know that they don't understand how things work. Don't make laws about our bodies. How about that? Nobody makes a law about a man's body. We don't say when you can ejaculate or not. Wish we could, but we can't. And pregnancies are all caused by men, so we can't do it by ourselves. All of this is just to keep his base dumb, small-minded and narrow-minded, because if they actually took a moment to learn anything for themselves, they'd be like, wait, what? No. And what they also don't understand is all of the shit that he wants to do to Democrats, they're going to do to Republican women too. Project 2025 isn't just about controlling liberal bodies. It's about controlling all host vessel bodies and all children. And they don't have any way to to distinguish that it will affect them as well. And so when you're in a cult and you are willingly being lied to, you're like, yes, lie to me more. We just have to be louder than that. Fox News isn't doing it anymore. They actually cut away from his rally yesterday and showed Kamala Harris's
I read
speech
that.
instead. So
I'm kind of amazed by that. I'm not sure what's going on.
To believe that people are really as tired of him as the rest of us are. And I would also really like it if people would start talking about what happens when he gets sentenced in 3 weeks. Because no one's talking about that.
Because I think that it's going to be, I honestly think it's going to get put off because there's questions about they're still briefing the idea about the lawyers are briefing. Does the Supreme Court decision? It should not matter. And well, it does matter because he made a motion for a new trial saying some of the evidence that came in is no longer allowed because of the Supreme Court decision. So it's from a legal point of view, it's actually a relevant thing. And I think, look, to me, he's not going to jail now anyway. Say the judge goes, you're going to jail for a month. That's not going to happen now. It's going to, the appellate process. So why even, we're on the right path. I'm fine with them putting the sentencing off to after election day. Why even throw something that gets his base more animated? He's not going anywhere. He's convicted. As long as the judge doesn't overturn the conviction so you can get a new trial, then he's no longer a convicted felon. That kind of sucks for us. So
they don't care that he's a convicted felon. They don't care that he's a pedophile. They don't care that he's a rapist. It's just, we're not getting the right information out as loudly as we need to because the MSM is like, what if he doesn't come to the debate? What are we going to do? And it's just like, they continue to ask the wrong questions about him and put out the wrong messaging so that everyone isn't focused on how fucking awful he is. It's just,
that's true. And you sounded like Carol Channing there, which is an old reference, but that was like an impression of Carol.
I was thinking I sounded more like George C. Scott. So Carol Channing is at least the correct.
He's very good. By the way, we got to talk about JD Vance for a minute because he's such a douchebag. He is such an elitist frat boy. Like him, he got booed this week a little bit in Boston with the firefighters union. But every week we find out something else he said, not years ago, just in 2021. At this time, because in the past he talked about childless cat ladies want to make the rest of us miserable. Now he talked about teachers who don't have children. And he goes, so many of the leaders of the left, I hate to be so personal about this, but there are people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. You hate to be personal about this. All you do is talk about people not having children and being bad.
So weird.
I don't even understand it. I mean, I don't know who this appeals to. I don't get any of it. Jason, you're at the rallies. Does this make any sense to you about the continuing hammering of people who don't have children being somehow less than fully human beings, fully American because they don't have kids? Is that something Trump ever touches on?
No, I mean, I think it's just thinking back now on the JD Vance pick. Think about where we were. What, 2.5 months ago? 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Donald Trump there was an assassination attempt on him. Yes, there was. Yes, there was. we were at the rally. We left an hour before the shooting, but it happened. And you really thought, we thought everything changed at that moment. And we didn't know the Donald Trump we were going to see at the convention. Then he picks JD Vance. He had the opportunity to pick a more unifying, somebody a little more moderate, but he doubled down on MAGA and he doubled down on weird, as it turned out, and awkward, because he picked somebody who it might turn out to be the worst VP pick in history, depending on what happens with the election. If he wins, hey, he won. What can you say? But he is basically like a glorified, not even glorified. He's like a subpar right-wing podcast host who tries to say zingers. He can't get the jokes out. He makes everyone so uncomfortable. He's the embodiment of tough crowd here, but the tough crowd follows him everywhere he goes because he's so awkward. He can't even order donuts without making people uncomfortable. So I think it goes back to Donald Trump, and you had to vet somebody. You had to know how important suburban women are for you winning this election right now, and to pick somebody who has these terrible comments they're out there. It's not like he said these and they're secretly recorded. He was saying them on podcasts. He was saying them to Tucker Carlson on Fox News. He was saying them publicly. So Donald Trump, I think, was riding high, that thinking he was going against Joe Biden. He was like, I need to pick somebody who's going to do whatever I say, who's going to be a good lapdog. So he picked JD Vance, and it was just a stupid pick. It was a really, really stupid pick, and we're seeing it now.
And he keeps giving. And I don't think I don't think
Well,
they
it's
care about that.
money. It's the Peter PayPal money. He picked JD Vance because he has Peter Thiel and his very deep pockets behind him. Peter Thiel financed his entire Senate campaign, And then I don't put it past him for picking up the phone and saying, hey, to Trump, if you put my boy there next to you, you get untold millions. You've got the PayPal millions. You've got venture capitalists. You've got all of this Nazi Rumble money because they created Nazi YouTube together. You've got this platform. If you pick my boy, I really don't think they put a whole lot of thought into it other than who's going to give me the most money, because Trump is fucking broke. And so he's going to listen to the richest person who gave him the biggest check the most recently. That's
kind of weird, though.
The-
Yeah, Peter Thiel definitely did that. But this week, JD Vance, in an interview, I think it was Financial Times, said he wants Peter Thiel to get off the sidelines and get into this more, engage. For some reason, he's not. And I don't know what, I have no idea what's going on. Maybe he's reading the room and going like this. He's not going to win
no,
this.
I backed a loser. Oh no.
Right. Like, I just don't know about that. But also we got to, and I'll give this to my friend Alex, we can't miss the week and not talk about Trump's henchman roughing up a female worker at Arlington National Cemetery, which made, like, that story just kept going. It went from like a rumored thing, and then it became real. And then the Army put out a statement. They never put a statement out. And then we found out it was a woman that his people roughed up. And to me, one of the worst parts of it is that she could have filed charges, but did not, out of fear of retribution from Donald Trump supporters or the Trump world. And I'm like, how do we get this place as a society where you're afraid of the leading candidate for president as a Republican? His people might make your life or your family's life miserable. And it's true. And so you're not going to file criminal charges. It's really worrying to me that in a much bigger sense. So Alex, what's your reaction to that story?
I was actually surprised that the story got so much coverage and has taken off and has had like days, rightful as it should. It actually felt like a time almost before 2016 when, you know, the media would just move on to like the next story, the next story, the next story, the next story. And we're actually having a minute to digest how messed up this story is, and that you can't just defy the laws around what you're allowed to do at Arlington. So I've actually been like kind of surprised pleasantly that the story's gone on. It is a shame that she didn't feel safe enough to file charges. And I think that you know, is certainly a testament to how effective his supporters are at actually making your life a living hell. If you just do what is in the realm of a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And, you know, I'm also curious. I know the campaign has the video, apparently, of whatever the interaction was. I'm really curious to see if they'll release it. I would imagine that they would edit the heck out of it to just make it such a dishonest reflection of whatever happened. But yeah, I'm curious. And also I'm glad that it's getting traction.
And, you know, to shift gears for a second here before we run out of time, I found this interesting, and I'm not making light of it, but there was an article today that the CIA, or yesterday, the CIA was the ones that warned Austrian authorities about a planned terrorist attack against Taylor Swift concert. And I'm just wondering, was it like a CIA guy who just loves Taylor Swift, or a woman? It's like every day he's like, it's like, no, this is for work. I'm watching, like, why are you dressed like Taylor Swift? Shake it off video.
He was he really didn't like Taylor Swift, and then was like in those forums and was like, uh-oh, things are getting out of control here. The other haters are planning something bad here. This is bad.
Right. Like he was just doing, it's like, you can't, not that Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, someone like Joe, turn off the Taylor Swift videos. Like, no, this is for work. I promise you, it's really for work. Like, it's not, you're not, stop dancing. No, it really is for work. So I think the CIA did a great job, and I'm glad but what a bizarre world we live in but there was a Demi Lovato, who there was a terrorist attack at her concert.
Ariana Grande.
I'm sorry. And Ariana, I got them confused. Similar thing. But all right, very last thing in the last minute here, Beetlejuice 2. Like, I just watched Beetlejuice on cable recently, like a month ago. And I'm like, I forgot how good it was. The new one, standing ovation this week at the Venice Film Festival. Michael Keaton's in it. Jenny Ortega is starring. I think some of the people from the original, except for Alec Baldwin, and one other person's not being, Ginny Davis is not back in it. Any of you looking forward to this? We'll do it quickly. Tara, are you looking forward to it?
No. I mean, when you say Beetlejuice, I think of Lauren Boebert in the theater. That's where my mind.
That was the play.
That's that. And right now, with everything that's I mean, wonderful. I'm delighted they had a great time making the movie, and it's got a lovely verse. I feel like it has literally nothing to do with me. there's just too much else going on in the world for me to focus on. Enjoy your festivals, friends, while
It's
we're
gonna
over
come.
here fighting for democracy. Go for it. I haven't seen a movie in the theater since Barbie last summer. So great. Go and enjoy yourselves. Maybe I'll catch it when it comes on TV at some point, but it's not
I
really
sense
at the
judgment.
forefront. It's
Right.
not a judgment. It's more like I think the other things might have a little bit higher priority for me personally. But blessings to Michael Keaton. And anytime Winona Ryder gets work, I cheer because
Wow.
OG Gen
Stranger Things.
X,
Right.
love me some Winona. Go and enjoy. But again, I'd like to get past the COVID and elect Kamala Harris. That's just me, though.
Okay. Oh, Alex, Beetlejuice, you're gonna see it?
I'm excited. I'm going to see it. To each their own. I respect that. I also think that for me, I know that in these times, rest and restoration is having a restorative moment is important. And that if you can find joy seeing a movie, doing whatever kind of, helps you stay energized, that's important. So, I think maybe that's the perspective I'll bring to this. Also love Winona Ryder, love Jenna Ortega.
Right.
So I'm here for it. To each their own.
Jason, I know that many Halloweens you probably dressed up like Beetlejuice.
I was a Beetlejuice fan, and I recently rewatched it, and I have to say I was a little disappointed in it. If you look at the pacing of the movie, Beetlejuice doesn't actually appear until like the 45-minute mark. Like it's really like a while before Beetlejuice
You
gets there. Maybe I'm
dissected it. You
exaggerating.
didn't watch it. You dissected it.
Yeah, well, it's a film, and I study film. No, not really. But and I'm just looking at this. I've watched the last couple Tim Burton movies, and I'm not going to force myself. I'm going to see it. I'm going to go see it, but I'm not going to get excited. I'd rather be pleasantly surprised. But the bar is very low because I think Tim Burton really hasn't done anything great in the last 15 years. Maybe I'm going to get some slack for that, but I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, in Tara's case, if we say Lauren Boebert 3 times, she appears. So we're not going to say that, right? All right. So Tara, if people want to follow your work, where can they go, my friend?
Rocks on Twitter and TikTok, Tara Dublin Rocks 1 on the Threads / Instagram. I also have the Substack. And please buy my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, which is inspired by my meet cool with Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl also hates Donald Trump and won't let Donald Trump use Foo Fighters music. So there's another reason to check out the rock and roll love story at TaraDublinRocks.com.
And Alex Berg, what about you?
Find me at itsalexberg.com. I'll also be sitting in for Zerlina next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 9 Eastern time, morning with Zerlina on SiriusXM Progress. So you can give me a call then.
Great. And my friend Jason, what about you and your work? Where can people check stuff out?
I'm Jason Selvig on all the social media, but the Good Liars are the Good Liars on TikTok and Twitter. And what's the other one? What's the other big one? Oh, yeah, YouTube, and then TGL NYC on Instagram. And we've got a podcast. It's going to be new episodes every single week. The Good Liars Tell the Truth. You can get that wherever you get podcasts.
Thank you. You are all great. I really appreciate you coming on here, the last unofficial weekend of the summer. And we're going to take a break and come back with more of this.